Good evening or good afternoon. If you're in the United States, it's 11 p.m. here in Sweden, which would be around 5 p.m. in Eastern Time. And it's tomorrow in Australia and Korea. And, well, you know where you are. You know what time it is at your place. And, yeah, today we are continuing the Young Thug RICO-Trial. Now, we learned yesterday that during the... what was it called? It was called the Daubert hearing. And we learned from the Daubert hearing several things that was interesting and a bit disturbing. For instance, we learned yesterday that the chief medical examiner in Fulton County does not have standard operational procedure for when she's doing autopsies. And for me, that was strange, just to have a chief medical examiner more or less admitting on stand on the Daubert hearing that she has no standard procedure. Now, I do understand that different medical examinations and different autopsies, you simply cannot have a standardized way. You have to divert from the standard way. But just in my opinion, no matter which scientific area you are in, you have to have a standard to go from. So that was one disturbing thing that we... you're coming in from Michigan Law Show. Hey everybody. Good to see you all. Thank you so much for showing up. Me and David try to coordinate our streams so we don't conflict, so you have to choose. So this is what we did today. So we started out today with the Jodi Aris stream that we do together. Then David went on to do his on the lie, dad covered in lie murder trial. And now here I am with rapper Young Thug RICO-Trial. So welcome. So let's... we don't have to choose. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to choose. I'm Swedish. Yeah, you know.
He's not an idiot. He's just Swedish.
Ding the bell. Oh. Ding ding. I primarily use this for big super chats and when I have to say really bad curse words before the 2-hour mark. Then I'll use the bell. Hey David. Hey Flux. Lefty Lulz, Neo Dark Matter, Fedorevsky. Everybody's here. Yay. Okay. Young Thug RICO-Trial. Yesterday, first episode I did was snippets of all the debauchery, all the stuff, that small snippet of what has been going on from December until now in this pre-trial, because this trial was supposed to have happened in January of this year, but everything has been delayed. So far, one juror was sent to jail because she filmed in the courtroom during jury selection. That was not a bright idea. We know that one lawyer was almost thrown into prison because he brought pills to the courtroom. It was his own. But apparently that didn't matter. and much other things. And then yesterday we learned on the Daubert hearing that the chief medical examiner does not have a standard operational procedure, an SOP, which is amazingly bad from my point of view, because even if you have every medical examination is different, every autopsy is different, but you still have to have some standardization to operate from. You can divert there, you can divert there, you can divert there. But no, nothing of the sort. And wait, there's more. Then we learned that the chief medical examiner, when she does her final report, she only puts in the notes she believes matters. The rest she throws away. And seriously? You're not. If the defense calls their own expert, they have to follow her, how she came to that conclusion. So that's another issue altogether. And then after that, we that's not okay. And in the middle of the Daubert hearing, we learned that one guy was not represented. He did not have a lawyer at the time. By that time, he had spent months in jail with no bond, and still hadn't gotten himself a lawyer. Couldn't afford one. He should have been appointed one, but he still, in December, did not have a lawyer appointed to him. And the judge excused it with, well, this is such a big case. We need a lot of lawyers. When he gets his lawyer, the lawyer can come in and make objections in retrospect. Yeah. And yes, I heard that. I will save that part for later, because there's something. When I started looking for more information, they basically, yes, they ran out of lawyers, because in this case, there were originally 65 counts on the RICO trial against YSL, Young Slime Life Gang RICO-Trial. Young Thug is the main person they are going for, and so I believe originally there were 28 defendants with 65 counts. Now they are down to 11 defendants, and at least 8 have taken plea deals, and is probably going to testify against Young Thug. But before that, I have a guest. It's not David. He is a friend who I gladly disagree with on occasions on social media, but he's a great guy. Let's say hello to attorney Andrew F. Branca. Hello.
Hey, can you hear me
tie
okay?
on and all. Yeah, I can hear you. Can chat hear us both? Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, my main laptop is in repair, so I had to dig up an old one. I wasn't sure if it would work or not.
Yeah.
And we may disagree, but we respectfully disagree.
Yes. Now, I know that you haven't followed this case at all.
I don't even know what a young
yesterday
thug is.
Young Thug, or Jeffery Lamar Williams, is supposedly the leader of the YSL-gang, Young Slime Life. And he's a semi-successful rapper who got into money and stuff like that. So they started YSL Records. Yeah, exactly. So now we two old white guys are going to comment on a young rapper. Well, well, not exactly. It's the due process and procedure. And I told you yesterday about one of the defendants in this had no attorney at this hearing. Now I found out that there are more defendants who does not still, up until a month ago, did not have a lawyer. So there's at least 4 defendants who are held without bond, no lawyer.
And I presume they have money for a lawyer, so they're not eligible for what in the U.S. would be a public defender or a free government-paid lawyer.
We're going to listen to that because I tried to find news articles about that specific issue, but apparently in Georgia it's not important. The only person they write about is Mr. Young Thug, or Mr. Jeffery Williams. But I found an interview with the lead attorney where he brings up all this. So I'm going to play small snippets. So I don't think it's the copyright strike kind of guy, but you never know. So there he is. He is there, interviewed by DJ Vlad on May 11th. So basically a month ago. So let's listen
Nice
to
suit.
him, what he has to say about. Yeah, that's a good suit.
Right. But then you look on the other end, I think there are 4
Oh no.
brothers and
Yeah. So 4 brothers who can't afford their own lawyer. They have to have appointed lawyers, but the only public defenders which the state has contracted, they can't represent. They can only represent one of them.
Well, I don't know. Something doesn't sound right here to me. So in most jurisdictions, there'll be a government-funded office of public defender who represents indigent clients. And, you know, I used to work for a public defender's office. That was my first my first job in the law. And I can't remember a case where we represented co-defendants, but we must have had. I mean, people get arrested in groups all the time, and they're indigent. So I can't believe that there's no way to Chinese wall the representation. So it would be permissible. It would not be permissible if it was a private law firm. But there's lots of private law firms, and there's only one public defender's office. Or they have, I would expect there'd be mutual support arrangements with the public defender's office in the next county, to provide counsel from a different office when this kind of situation comes up. But I can't believe there's a public defender's office that hasn't run into that particular dilemma for multiple indigents, suspects arrested in the same case, need public defender representation. I suspect what may be happening, you have to keep in mind, to get a public defender, you need to be broke. You need to be indigent. You need to have basically nothing. If you have anything, you're supposed to pay for your own counsel. And I expect the first job I ever had in the law was as an investigator for the public defender's office to investigate people's claims that they were indigent to see if they qualified for a public defender in the first place. What I suspect is that these people are not actually broke, that they have money to pay for a lawyer. And for whatever reason, that maybe they're choosing not to kind of stymie the legal process. I don't know. But it doesn't sound quite right the way it's being described.
Okay, but let's continue and see what else, because I listened up to about 4 minutes and then I thought I need more of, so maybe he will
let me
That could be a reason why nobody steps up. But then again, this is as far as I got. And over here, our system is quite different. You are appointed a lawyer. That's it. The cost of the lawyer comes after the trial is concluded. They will bill the court. That's how our system is built up.
Yeah, that is different.
So they can defendants can ask for lawyers, but they will be appointed lawyers, and so they can, and then they bill. The court goes through the bill and says that's too much, and they cut it in half, and more or less give it back. But that
I wouldn't like that system at all.
Well, more or less, but there are attorneys who specializes in this in Sweden, and they make bank on it. Really, they are making lots of money on it, because the bigger murder trials, terrorism, stuff like that, we are talking in dollars, millions. But even if it's shoplifting, even if it's petty theft or carjacking or anything, the system has it that the state goes in and pays the lawyer, because it has to be a level playing field.
Yeah, we don't do anything like that.
Hire experts. They can hire experts. They can hire co-counsel. They can hire, well, and then they can ask for reimbursement from the court. So that is how we do it. So hearing this $7,500 as more or less a one-time payment for a RICO trial, that sounds
impossible. I mean, you can't. I mean, you couldn't hire a lawyer competent in that, which is a fairly complex area of the law. You couldn't hire him to take a simple murder case for $7,500. I mean, most of the so an aggravated assault case here in America, where you point a gun at someone, you don't shoot them, but you just point the gun, you scare them with the gun, you get charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Your lead counsel is going to want $30,000 to $50,000 pre-trial expense. That doesn't cover going to trial. So $7,500 is nothing. I mean, I guess you might do that for a DWI offense or something, but that's just that's not a lot of money. Certainly nothing for a case that's going to consume hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of time.
Yeah, and yes, Mats, if the defendant loses, the court will still pay the lawyer, but then the defendant has to reimburse the court. So that's basically how it works.
So he's entitled to paid legal counsel unless he loses.
Yeah, but always to level the playing field, so he can get adequate representation in court. So he doesn't get, well, we do have good and bad lawyers, but just representation, that's number one. From more or less, as soon as he gets arrested, he has the right to representation. He can ask for a specific lawyer, he can call his own lawyer, or the court will appoint a lawyer. Of course, as any other cops, they try to interview everybody before the lawyer gets there, but they shut up until the lawyer gets there. But we don't have a bond system either. You're either incarcerated, you're either under house arrest, or you are free to go awaiting trial. So you can't pay yourself.
How do they ensure
jail?
So the reason our bond system exists is because we say, all right, well, we don't want to keep you locked up in jail, but we want some assurance that you're going to show up for trial. So you put up the bond, and the bond is forfeit if you don't show up. But you don't have anything like that.
Yeah. Well, no, there's always, you count flight risk, more crimes, threat to society, and then the case you're too big of a threat to society and you're a flight risk. You can go,
they won't let you out.
That's why incarcerated. Now they won't let you out. And now that in itself, sometimes I believe Sweden have one of the longest incarcerations before trial in Europe, with 4.5 years.
Wow. Whoa.
And he was acquitted. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just finished a murder trial.
And he received
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say I just
you're
finished a
frozen.
murder trial where
Oh.
I just finished a murder trial where the defendant just yesterday was acquitted of all charges: murder, manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide. But he'd been held for 8 months. You know, it's 8 months of your life. You're sitting in a county jail, and it turns out you didn't do anything unlawful as determined by the jury. That's a long time, right? Think about it: 8 months just locked in a box with a bunch of really unpleasant people, and if you're actually innocent of the criminal charges. I have seen cases go. We covered a case of a New Mexico killing last year, a trial, and that guy was acquitted, and he'd been held, I think, for 3.5 years in prison. I mean, folks, that's a prison sentence all by itself. 3.5 years, 4.5 years, of course, is even worse.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Now he was. We have a system where if you are incarcerated and then acquitted, you get reimbursed. And this guy, I believe, received in dollars around $2 million for 4.5 years.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and that
sounds like a lot of money, but
largest sum anyone ever had.
Yeah,
it's 4.5 years of your life.
Yeah, can't get it back.
No.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons here in America
we have others where people will come.
I was going to say that's one of the reasons in America we in our Constitution we have a right to a speedy trial, because even if you're not incarcerated, if you're just awaiting trial year after year after year after year, and you're facing the possibility of conviction and maybe 10 or 20 years in prison or life in prison, what do you do with your life when you have that threat hanging over your head? Do you go to college? Do you start a family? You don't do anything. You're frozen.
Well, the largest sum anybody has ever had in the Swedish system is a guy who spent 16 years and then was completely acquitted in our Supreme Court. I believe he received somewhere in the roundabout. This is almost 30 years ago. So I don't know what it's worth now. The same amount of, let's double it. But then he got in American dollars around $4 million, which should be around $8 million in today's money. So they do have that. But then again, he lost decades of his life.
Yeah, I see someone in the comments saying they'd serve 4.5 years for $2 million, but that's not the algorithm, folks. the algorithm, the calculation is you do the 4.5 years, and then a court rolls a set of dice, and depending on what number comes up, you're acquitted or you spend the rest of your life in prison. So, do you want to take those odds?
Yeah. State's doing a RICO case. That's all we need to hear. No business doing a RICO. Yeah, and not yesterday, but the first we listened to a bit of the history of RICO-Trial. It's RICO-act from 1970. This was purely against mob.
Right, mafia.
But then, mafia. But since then, it has been directed towards gangs, and they have received a lot of criticism in Fulton County because it's a small county, and they don't. It's in Atlanta, Georgia, Fulton County, or around Atlanta, and it's so small. They are saying you don't have a business doing a RICO trial. You don't have the resources for it. Why don't you move it to a different jurisdiction? No, they are going to hold it. But let's continue listening to lead attorney here, because
so the RICO statute that went after the mafia, that was a federal statute. Is this is a state trial? So it's a state level RICO statute that would be in play here. It's not in federal court, right? Or are we in federal court? I don't know.
Let's see here. Young Thug RICO trial. Bum, bum, bum. State or federal?
I'm only. I mean, I'm not a
Mm.
RICO lawyer. I'm only barely familiar with the federal one. I guess there's no reason why there couldn't be a state level one. I hadn't heard of it. Let's see. No, it looks it's a state level case. Fulton County
Yeah,
District Attorney.
state.
So.
Yeah. But let's continually keeping the women in the chat. Yeah, $15,000, and as it says, they have had hearings more or less on a weekly or daily basis for the past 6 months.
Yeah. So to put this in
And
context for folks, when I do a legal consult on a case, so that's the highest level legal work that I do, and this is not a comparable to someone who just graduated law school, right? I've been doing this 32 years. The kind of RICO lawyer that I would want defending me if I were facing a RICO charge would charge along the lines of what I charge. But when I consult on a case, it's generally about a week of full-time effort on that case, and I charge $10,000 for that week. So $7,500 for a year's worth of work is obviously, from an American lawyer's perspective, a high-level attorney is insane. Just extrapolate it to your own experience, everyone in the chat. Whatever you make in a week, pretend you were only going to make that for the year. How would that work out?
Yeah, I mean, now I do labor law. I'm salaried, so I don't get paid the big bucks. But $15,000 is 3 months' pay from doing union stuff. The rest of my income is other work, other consultations, the farm. $15,000? No, not even in my line. And labor law does not pay. That's one of the worst area of law you can be in if you want to make money in any country. That's just it. I mean, maybe on a corporate level, if you are a labor lawyer on the corporate side, yeah, then you might earn a bit more. But from a union, no, not going to happen.
So here in America, we have a lot of unions that are very big and very well funded. I mean, our large American unions have a lot of money.
Well, we save our money for the big strikes. For instance, I think my union, the one I am currently tied to, has in Swedish currency, I think because when we take out people to strike, we have to pay their salary. So we have maybe in Swedish currency 2.2 billion. That would be around $200 million in our strike cash, so to speak. But we always have to have that because in maybe 10 weeks, we have to be prepared for a general strike at all times. That's just it. So we have to have that. And maybe that's why they don't pay me as much because, well, that's just it. Where was I? Yeah. I mean, at most $15,000. And this trial should have started in January. We watched the hearing from December. So these kids has not had a lawyer for almost 6 months. And during this time, the number of defendants has gone from 28 to 11, and 8 has taken plea deals and will probably testify against Young Thug, Mr. Williams.
Did they have lawyers for their plea deals? They did, or did they do their plea deals without legal representation? Because that would be scary.
No, I do think those who have taken plea deals has done that with the help of lawyers.
Okay.
But these 4 guys are just held without bond and with no representation. And am I too much of a conspiracy theorist to believe that can this be a tactic from the state?
It's so rare that you see this. I mean, I can't remember ever seeing this, because normally someone who has any money at all, I mean, if they're not going to get a public defender, they do hire a lawyer to represent them in court, because I mean, you can't go into criminal court defending yourself. I mean, that would be an insane thing to do. I almost wonder if it's a tactic of the defense, except I suspect that these defendants aren't clever enough to think of something like that, that they'll just listen. It's not fun to be held in jail for months without any progress in your case, unless the only reasonable progress in your case is likely to be a life sentence of some kind, and then you do want to delay.
Yeah, and the state paying this little, and it's being drawn out this long, and I'm not sure if the trial will start this week or next week, because yesterday Mr. Williams was sent to hospital with chest pains, and he's a 31-year-old guy, so I don't know if it's
Did he get the COVID shot?
Stuff up. Yeah, probably. But either way, everything is being prolonged, and this is a teeny tiny little jurisdiction, Fulton County. I can't avoid the conspiracy theory that are they boosting their case with plea deals, and just to get people to testify.
You mean the state?
Yeah.
Of course they are. Yes, of course. Yeah. They're cutting deals with, they have this many possible defendants. They're cutting deals with a bunch of them. And the condition of the plea deal is going to be cooperation with the prosecution. And they have meetings with these suspects and with these defendants, and they say, listen, it's our expectation that you'll be prepared to testify to A, B, C, D, and E. We're not telling you what to say, but our idea of cooperation with the prosecution is that you'll be prepared to testify to these specific things in this specific way. We're not telling you to do that if you don't want to, but if you don't want to, you don't get the plea deal.
Yeah. So everything in this case is so odd. The RICO trial, because there has been robberies. They claim it has been murders. They claim it has been carjacking. A lot of stuff. But does it suffice to a RICO? I don't know. I don't know hardly anything about a RICO trial. But for me, RICO trial is, or at least originally, was white-collar crimes, tax evasion. If we can't get them for this, let's get them for taxes. And then they build a RICO case around taxes. That's my understanding. And then go all the way up to this gang consistent of roughly 30 members calling themselves Young Slime Life, which is, in my opinion, a really bad name for a gang. But, well, that's just how the way it is. Now, it's just, and then I don't if you heard me talking about this the hearing where the chief medical examiner said no, she doesn't have an SOP, standard operational procedure, to go by, and once she finishes her report, she only applies the notes that support it, and then throws away the rest.
Right.
How is the defense going to? I mean, how is a defense going? How can a defense, what do you call it, cross-examine her without the notes she threw away? For me, that's all of it should be thrown away.
Well, of course,
And
we have a concept
so
here.
weird.
We have a concept here in American law. I'm sure you have the same thing in Sweden. It's called spoliation of evidence. So if one party in a dispute is in possession of evidence and they throw it away or destroy it, the presumption is that the evidence must have been against their interest. And so certainly the defense can make that argument to the jury. The only reason she threw it away was it didn't support her conclusion. You can infer that means it would have supported the defense. Without even having to see it, you can make that inference because of the fact that she threw it away. That's about the only effective counter argument. You can't get it back. She disposed of it.
Well, and even if she testified, no, it wasn't. Well, how do we know? You threw it away. And but here in Sweden we have the weight of evidence as well. You can get evidence in that is brought in more or less illegally by bad search or anything, but its weight is much less, but it still can be evaluated. In the United States, I believe it's badly conduct, it's thrown out.
It's thrown out, right?
But everything that evidence led to is also thrown out because they wouldn't have found this without the bad search, for instance.
Right.
We don't
the
have
phrase.
that here in Sweden.
The phrase we use is the fruit of the poison tree. So the poison tree was poisoned by the bad search. So anything that follows as a consequence gets thrown out. In practice, it doesn't really work because in practice, the unlawful search provides avenues of investigation that would not have appeared but for the unlawful search, and then those are pursued as if they were independently discovered.
Yeah, there's always a loophole, and a loophole that isn't Jodi Arias' three-hole wonder. If you didn't know Jodi Arias, me and David are watching that trial from 10 years ago, and apparently her nickname was the three-hole wonder. And
I'm sure she was popular.
We have.
Hey, keep talking.
I
have to step away from the camera for just a minute, but I'll be listening. So keep talking.
Okay, I'm going to play more from lead attorney until I'm at monetization level yellow. Okay, but that's normal here. I went not ad suitable listening to yesterday's hearing. So apparently that is YouTube's new way of doing things. Oh, you're doing trials, not suitable for ads, as a standard thing. Young Thug has Brian Steele as a lawyer. He's a good lawyer. Okay. Yeah. And yes, go subscribe to Law of Self-Defense.
Thank you.
Yep. Go subscribe to him. And I said, Dave Umberger, I get $650 a month from Teams's Unis and $2,300 a month in Social Security. Okay. I didn't. It doesn't work that way here in Sweden. If you are on Social Security, you can't have a job or be a union rep or anything. But let's listen more to see what lead. Yeah,
I was just going to say, I suspect the union money might be a disability payment from the union, not income for work being done.
Okay.
Because you would not normally.
Okay.
Social Security works a couple of ways in America. One is when you retire, you qualify for Social Security retirement money, but also if you get disabled younger in life, you can also get Social Security compensation.
Okay. Thank you. But let's listen more to lead attorney, what he has to say. Okay. That was interesting. I haven't been. I need to find that live stream. But if a hacker can come into your computer and leave that, what did they take out?
I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe it was a hacker. I believe that was the excuse given. But listen, there's a reason. I always advise lawyers when you bring a laptop into court, it's not your personal laptop. You bring in a laptop that is absolutely clean and only used for that trial. Because let's face it, people have tabs on their Chrome they would not want exposed in a courtroom. Don't do that. People get spam.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff can happen. And so I don't
If
think
you Google something and start with if you Google something and write in the first letter, and that letter is the same as a prawn site,
right?
That will show.
Right. So if you Google in like gay male porn, it might autofill the rest.
Yeah.
I will say,
Japanese
so
yeah.
I like the lead attorney. I've been on shows with him before when we were both guests on other people's shows. I don't remember what they were, but I feel like I'm lacking context because a lot of what he's saying, it doesn't sound quite right to me. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I don't know if he's wrong or not. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to me. Like all this stuff with these lawyers going bankrupt, that's bad legal practice. I mean, just administrative practice. So lawyers in the modern era, we know that it's very difficult to get rid of a client, a troublesome client. So we structure our payment agreements so they're very specific. They cover specific steps in the legal process, to a plea agreement, up to a trial, but not including a trial, to a verdict, but not an appeal. And we get paid up front for those portions. So because we get paid up front, if we get to the end of that segment, that agreed upon work, and there's no money left to continue forward, we're done. I mean, we've met our legal obligation to the client because we explicitly constrained the legal obligation to the scope of the payment we received. So I've never been in a position where I wouldn't put myself in a position where I took $10,000 from a client to do $10,000 worth of legal work, and suddenly I was on the hook for $1 million worth of legal representation. That seems to me like lawyers who don't know how to craft their client agreements.
Okay, Darcy seemed to follow this. They just seized the lawyer's laptop last week. Defendant was using to message outside persons. That's bad lawyering. I mean,
and by the way, the recording things, lead attorney said this judge had sentenced people to prison for recording. He didn't sentence people to prison. I'm sure what he did was he held them or he threatened them with prison. What happened is he held them in contempt.
Yeah.
If the judge says you cannot record in my courtroom, if the judge says you cannot record and you're caught recording, you're in contempt of court. And one action the judge can take is to put you in the county jail for contempt of court. It's not prison. You're not doing 3 years in prison for recording, but you're in jail for some period of time because the judge is pissed.
Yeah, this was the first stream I did when we checked out snippets. That one young woman apparently missed everything the judge said and picked up her phone and started recording the jury selection. And that was so she got 3 days in county jail.
Well, listen, that's perfectly reasonable contempt citation for that kind, especially jury selection, where presumably the jurors' identities are intended to be kept secret until some later time.
Okay, yeah, that's also a bad idea. Don't call a judge.
That's what I call
really
that's a bad
idea.
That's a bad plan.
Yeah, that's a really bad plan. Okay, but we have a few minutes left of this, and then I'm going to let everybody go. I do have a few of the hearings left to listen to see if there's anything interesting that happens that I can't cover in any other way. But so do you think I picked the wrong trial to follow?
I think it should be fun. It's certainly entertaining. The trouble is RICO cases are extremely complicated, and they tend to have different rules than normal cases. They often have different rules for evidence, different rules for what kinds of arguments can be made, because they say bad cases make for bad law, right? Well, difficult defendants, difficult criminals make for bad procedure. We start going outside the bounds of normal criminal procedure because we're having trouble nailing down these guys we're convinced are bad people. And often they are bad people, but we start creating special rules just for them. And unless you practice that kind of law, you don't have a good sense of what the special rules are. Like I don't know anything about RICO law other than the general concept. But what you need to find a RICO lawyer who would come on and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, someone who isn't in Georgia because they might be preoccupied with this trial. I will be trying to
And by the way,
find
this
someone
county is
who
not
is actually
that small a county. Fulton County is 1 million people. It includes the city of Atlanta. It's a pretty sizable county.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that it was too small for a RICO trial, because that's the criticism I've heard from what read in the paper and heard
a
from
lot of
other
people.
channels.
Right. So RICO is famous at the federal level. Many people don't even know that states have RICO laws. So they may be saying generally we shouldn't do RICO at the state level. It should only be for, the mafia at the federal level.
Okay.
It shouldn't be for a local gang. So I can imagine people making that argument. I might make that argument myself. But this is, there are counties in Georgia that probably have like 5 people and 10 goats in them, but this is not one of them. This is a populated county.
Okay, I was under the impression that Fulton was a part of Atlanta, not that Atlanta was a part of Fulton. Okay.
Well,
so,
it's not all. It's
for,
not all of Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's huge. Atlanta is a mega city, so it's a part, but it's about 1 million people in Fulton County. What's the population of Sweden?
Well, either way, 10 million.
Right, so it's 1/10 the size of Sweden in terms of population.
He's frozen.
No.
Yeah. Well, the entirety of Sweden is 10 million, and Stockholm is about 1.5 million. So 15% of Sweden is Stockholm, our capital city. So
Fulton County
is on the.
Fulton County is 2/3 the size
Stockholm.
of Stockholm, right? So, and it has a lot of crime, a lot of crime.
We have, well, Stockholm is also the crime capital in Sweden as well, because of reasons. Our drug laws are ridiculous. For instance, I don't. I might have said this on a previous stream, but Sweden just a month ago made it punishable by 6 months in prison for 1 gram of cannabis, obligatory. So and they did that knowing that in the entire country today, in all the prisons, there are 64 available spots. So even if someone is convicted, they have to stand in line for a prison cell. There are people who were convicted in 2021 who still haven't gone to prison. And what do they do meanwhile? Well, they are already going to prison, so they go on crime sprees. I mean, it's so stupid. It's Yeah.
Well, I can tell you what we do in America. We just pay private companies to build prisons.
With the current government, I do believe we are headed that way, because one of the political parties are for private schools funded by state money, and I'm quite sure they will also start with private prisons, and I'm not a huge fan of that system. I'm not a huge fan of.
It has problems, right? I mean, you can see moral complexities with privately built prisons.
Yeah, because some things should be run by state only. For instance, if you have financial incentives to have people in your privately owned prison, you will lobby for harsher penalties. That's just it. And I believe that should be on a state level, not on a private sector.
I don't disagree, but I don't think you escape those economic pressures on the state level either. I mean, politicians here in America, for example, advocate for relaxed criminal laws because many of their constituents are either criminals or are families of criminals, and they don't want them sent to prison. So we relax the laws so much that we get to a tipping point where now we're effectively encouraging crime. For example, there's major cities in the U.S. with what we would call, I don't know how you characterize your political parties there, but liberal politicians, where they say we're not going to punish property crime if the property stolen was less than $1,000. Well, that leads to waves of people going into stores and stealing $900 worth of property at a time, knowing they're not going to be held accountable.
Yeah. And yes, Malmö was the crime capital of Sweden, but they implemented a bunch of hordes of new cops and started really to dig into it. So everybody moved to Stockholm instead.
Yeah, that'll happen.
So they
squeezing the balloon, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It will pop out somewhere else. Yeah, a large of the criminal population in Malmö has moved to Stockholm instead. So yeah, they just rearranged the problem. But well, I said an hour, and I don't, because I wanted to listen to the rest of the lead attorney and have someone on with a better understanding of the U.S. legal system than I have, which is most lawyers. But as you said, I might try to find someone who is experienced in RICO trials. But I would gladly have you on again, because this trial might start next week or in a month. I don't know. But I will do updates occasionally, and I hope you can come on again. If not,
I'm always
anywhere else. I guess I will see you on Jets on Friday.
I'm always humbled by the invites. All the law tubers. I'm always humbled whenever I get an invite. I try to accept as many as I can. The summer is particularly crazy for me with a lot of travel, but when I can make it, I will try to make it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, folks. I'm gonna say goodbye.
Yeah.
And
go over, subscribe to Andrew, and like everything he has put out there. You can watch us both have friendly arguments on Twitter, but let's see here if my handle is up. It isn't, but just search for my name and you will find it. And Andrew, if you want, take 30 seconds of grift.
Just law of self-defense, all the social media, where whatever you might be in, just put that in law of self-defense. You'll find me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for joining.
Sure.
And thank you to the chat for showing up. And I'll see you everybody on another day. And yeah, this was interesting to have Andrew on to help with this stream. I will continue to cover this trial that is a bit into the future. As soon as something interesting comes up, I will pre-watch the hearings a bit, at least, to see what interesting, because we do know there are lawyer shenanigans, we do know there are jury shenanigans, but we don't know when or where in these streams there are. So I will do some pre-checking. Yeah, go over to tomorrow. I will have a day off because girlfriend needs attention, so I won't be putting out streams tomorrow, but I'll see you again on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I might have news for Sunday. Not sure yet. Either way, thank you for showing up. You all have a nice day, and I'll talk to you later.